Hi, I'm Caleb. Most people see me as the reliable guy, the one who always has his life together. At 32, I had what I thought was the perfect setup: a thriving architecture firm, a beautiful home in the suburbs, and Elena, my girlfriend of 3 years, who I was planning to propose to next month. Morning sunshine, I said, sliding a cup of coffee across the kitchen counter to Elena. Her dark hair was pulled into a messy bun, and she was already dressed for her job at the pediatric clinic. Thanks, she mumbled, barely looking up from her phone. I might be late tonight. Dr. Winters asked me to help with some patient files. Again, that's the third time this week, I said, trying to keep my tone light. I was hoping we could check out that new Italian place. Elena sighed, tucking her phone into her pocket. Can we do it tomorrow? I really need to get these hours in if I want that promotion. Sure, no problem. I'll just bring some work home. I kissed her cheek, ignoring the way she subtly pulled back. My best friend Marco noticed it before I did. We were grabbing lunch at our usual spot near my office when he brought it up. So, how are things with Elena? Marco asked, stirring his iced tea absently. Good, I think. She's been working late a lot. The promotion, you know. Marco set down his glass with a deliberate motion. Caleb, man, I need to ask you something, and I need you to not freak out. That's exactly how you get someone to freak out, I laughed. But Marco's expression remained serious. Have you noticed anything off lately? With Elena? I felt a strange tightness in my chest. What do you mean, off? My cousin Tanya works at that clinic, Marco said slowly. She mentioned that Dr. Winters retired last month, moved to Florida. That can't be right, I said, my sandwich forgotten. Elena's been working late with Dr. Winters all week. That's why I'm bringing it up, Marco leaned forward. And last weekend when Elena said she was at that medical conference, Tanya said there wasn't any conference. There has to be an explanation, I insisted, but my mind was already racing. Maybe Tanya got the details wrong. Maybe, Marco conceded. But Caleb, there's something else. I didn't want to be the one to tell you this. Just say it, I demanded, my appetite completely gone. I saw Elena last night at Riverfront Park. Marco wouldn't meet my eyes. She was with some guy. They looked close. Close how? My voice sounded strange to my own ears. They were holding hands, and then they kissed. Marco finally looked up. I'm sorry, man. I took a picture because I knew you wouldn't believe me. He slid his phone across the table. The image was slightly distant but unmistakable. Elena, in the blue dress she'd bought last month, kissing a tall man with blonde hair. She told me she was working late, I whispered. Marco reached across the table and gripped my shoulder. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, I said, feeling numb, but I'm going to find out who he is. You must be Caleb, the receptionist at Elena's clinic said with a bright smile. Her name tag read, Valerie. Elena's mentioned you. What brings you in today? Just dropping by to surprise her for lunch, I said, summoning my most casual smile. Is she around? Valerie's smile faltered slightly. Elena called in sick today, said she had a migraine. My stomach dropped. Elena had kissed me goodbye this morning, telling me about a busy day of appointments ahead. That's strange, I said carefully. She seemed fine this morning. Valerie lowered her voice. Between us, she's been calling in sick a lot lately. Dr. Garcia isn't happy about it. Dr. Garcia? Not Dr. Winters? Dr. Winters? Valerie looked confused. He retired months ago. Dr. Garcia took over his patients. I thanked her and walked out, my mind racing. Outside, I called my sister Olivia. Hey, big brother, she answered cheerfully. What's up? Liv, I need your help, I said, cutting to the chase. It's about Elena. Olivia's tone immediately changed. What happened? I explained everything. Marco's sighting, the lie about work, the mysterious man. That's wow, Olivia said when I finished. What are you thinking? I don't know what to think, but something's not adding up. Have you checked her phone? Olivia asked. I'm not going to snoop through her phone, Liv. It's not snooping when you have legitimate concerns, she argued. Look, come over. Jason's good with this stuff. Jason was Olivia's husband, a cybersecurity expert. 2 hours later, I sat in their living room as Jason explained what he'd found. So I didn't hack anything, Jason clarified, pushing his glasses up. But I did some basic social media cross-referencing from the photo Marco took. And, I prompted. The guy's name is Derek Winters, Jason said, turning his laptop toward me. He's a pharmaceutical rep, and get this, he's Dr. Winters' son. Elena's been seeing her former boss's son? I stared at the screen, where Derek Winters smiled back from his professional profile. For at least 6 months, based on their digital footprint, Jason confirmed grimly. There's something else, Caleb. Elena's been making a lot of withdrawals from your joint account, small enough not to raise flags, but they add up. To what? What's she spending it on? Jason and Olivia exchanged a look. There's a trail of hotel bookings, Olivia said gently, and receipts for baby clothes. Baby clothes? I repeated numbly, but we're not. I think she might be pregnant, Caleb, Olivia said, placing her hand over mine. And I don't think it's yours. You don't know that, I protested weakly. There's only one way to find out, Jason said. You need to confront her. Not yet, I said, my mind suddenly clear. First, I need proof. What kind of proof? Olivia asked. The kind that holds up when everything falls apart. I didn't confront Elena that night, or the next. I watched and waited, gathering evidence. I hired a private investigator named Diana Reynolds, who documented Elena's meetings with Derek. I collected bank statements showing the withdrawals, and through Diana, I obtained a paternity test kit. 3 weeks after Marco showed me that photo, Elena dropped the news. Caleb, we need to talk, she said one evening, her eyes bright with what I now recognized as rehearsed emotion. I have something wonderful to tell you. What is it? I asked, already knowing. I'm pregnant, she said, reaching for my hands. We're going to have a baby. I let her take my hands, feeling nothing but a cold clarity. How far along? 12 weeks, she said, smiling tearfully. I wanted to be sure before I told you. 12 weeks. I did the math in my head. We'd been going through a dry spell, Elena's term, for nearly 4 months. She blamed stress and fatigue. Say something, she prompted, squeezing my hands. When were you going to tell me about Derek? I asked quietly. Elena's smile froze. What? Derek Winters, your lover, the father of your baby. She dropped my hands and stood up. What are you talking about? Have you been spying on me? Answer the question, Elena. There's nothing to tell, she exclaimed, her voice rising. I don't know anyone named Derek. The front door opened, and Marco walked in with Diana. I'd given Marco a key for this moment. What is this? Elena demanded. Who is she? I'm Diana Reynolds, private investigator, Diana said calmly, placing a folder on the coffee table. I've been documenting your relationship with Derek Winters for the past 3 weeks. This is insane, Elena sputtered, looking wildly between us. Caleb, you can't believe... There are photos, Elena, I interrupted. Hotel receipts, text messages, bank withdrawals. You went through my phone? Her outrage seemed genuine. I didn't have to, I replied. You've been using our joint account to fund your affair. It's not what you think, she insisted, tears forming. Derek and I... It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I love you, Caleb. This baby is not mine, I finished for her. Of course it's yours, she cried. How can you say that? I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folded paper. Because I have proof. What is that? Elena whispered, her face draining of color. A DNA test, I said, unfolding it. Remember that strand of hair I asked for last week, for that family tree project my nephew was doing? I compared it to the DNA from the prenatal testing you left in your purse. You had no right, she gasped. And you had no right to try to pass another man's child off as mine, I countered. It's over, Elena. I want you out of my house. You can't do this, she said, her tears turning to rage. I'll tell everyone you abused me. I'll ruin you. Diana stepped forward. That would be a false accusation, and I'm recording this conversation legally under single-party consent laws. Elena lunged forward suddenly, slapping me hard across the face. You think you're so smart, you'll regret this. Marco moved quickly, positioning himself between us. That's assault, Elena. Want to add that to your problems? Get out, I said quietly. You have until tomorrow to collect your things. Diana will supervise to ensure nothing of mine leaves with you. This isn't over, Elena hissed, grabbing her purse. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. After she stormed out, Marco put his hand on my shoulder. You okay, man? No, I admitted, but I will be. Elena didn't go quietly. True to her threat, she hired a lawyer, a shark named Gregory Palmer, who specialized in messy breakups. Mr. Palmer claims Miss Vasquez is entitled to half the value of your home, my attorney Sophia Kim explained during our meeting. He's arguing common law marriage principles. We weren't married, I pointed out, and the house is solely in my name. Correct, Sophia nodded, but they're claiming she contributed substantially to the mortgage through domestic labor and career sacrifices. What career sacrifices? She lied about working overtime. Exactly why we'll counter with the evidence of fraud, Sophia said crisply. The paternity deception alone undermines her credibility. 3 weeks later, we all met in a conference room, me with Sophia, Elena with Palmer, and Diana present as a witness. Before we begin, Palmer started, my client is willing to consider a generous settlement that— We're not interested in settlement discussions, Sophia interrupted. We're here to present evidence of Miss Vasquez's attempt to commit paternity fraud, her documented infidelity, and her assault against my client. Alleged assault, Palmer corrected. Diana placed a small recorder on the table. Not alleged, recorded. Elena glared at me across the table. Caleb, please. We can work this out. I made a mistake, but I still love you. Save it, I said quietly. The DNA test proves the baby isn't mine. The bank records show you've been stealing from me. It's over. Mr. Palmer, Sophia continued, we have documentation proving Miss Vasquez has been involved with Derek Winters for at least 6 months, using funds from a joint account to finance their affair. We also have evidence she planned to pass off Mr. Winters' child as my client's. Palmer reviewed the documents, his expression souring. We need to discuss this privately, he muttered to Elena. When they returned, Palmer's demeanor had changed. My client is willing to withdraw all claims in exchange for a clean break. Not good enough, Sophia replied. We'll need a signed admission of the attempted paternity fraud and a restraining order due to the assault. That will damage her reputation, Palmer protested. Her actions damaged her reputation, I said firmly. I won't press charges for the theft if she agrees to these terms. 2 days later, Elena signed the papers. I never saw her again, though I heard through Marco that she and Derek eventually got married after the baby was born. 6 months after Elena left, I ran into Valerie from the clinic at a coffee shop. I heard what happened, she said sympathetically. For what it's worth, the whole office was shocked. Elena seemed so genuine. People rarely show you who they really are, I replied. True, Valerie agreed. So, how are you doing now? I considered the question. Better, building back. Trust doesn't come easy anymore. Maybe it shouldn't, she suggested. Maybe it should be earned. As we continued talking, I realized something important. Moving forward didn't mean forgetting what happened. It meant learning from it. Have you ever had to rebuild your life after betrayal? It changes you. But sometimes, the person you become is stronger than the one you were before. The truth might hurt, but lies destroy. And in the end, I'd rather stand in painful truth than live in a comfortable lie.